Councilmember Gray, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Denise. I'm delighted to be here and delighted to be here with Kevin, also, who we love working with. He does a great job working for you, and I'm sure you know that even better than I.
Oh, yeah.
With.
As you know, it's nothing like having a great team, and he's a great team player and
Yeah,
just really makes things happen. So I
yeah,
really appreciate him and glad that you do too.
I do indeed.
Um, yeah, yeah. So first, before we move on to the commentary that you provided us or that we ran this week, we just celebrated Earth Day
Yeah.
on Wednesday, the 22nd, and we were fortunate enough to have former council member Tommy Wells, who now oversees the office of I think it's energy or sustainability,
Energy.
and right. And it was a great conversation, but we wouldn't have had that office without you. So can you tell us what precipitated your vision and your action to make sure that the district was looking at the environment as a serious policy issue?
Denise, when I became the mayor, one of the things I asked a couple of folks when I got there, and specifically our Office of Planning Director, who was a real environmentalist herself. I asked her, I said, Harriet, what is it that we're really doing on sustainability at this point? She said, well, we got a project here and a project there. And she said, I'm really glad that you asked because I really think we should be doing something more broadly to focus on those efforts. So what I did, Denise, was I said, well, let's pull together some people. We put together an effort over at the Washington Convention Center. I was hoping that we would get, 25 or 50 people to show up to
Mm.
participate in that discussion. And believe it or not, we had 400 or more people who showed up for that discussion.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
what led to, Denise, was the crafting of a vision for what we wanted to do with sustainability. We wound up with 9 focal points in that effort. It certainly led to lifting up the environmental issues that we have in the District of Columbia. Uh, and interestingly enough, I wound up with a guy named with sustainability, Kevin Anderson, to be the director of the agency, who went on then to become, he's still working for the DC government and does a great job. Some of the things that we focused on, Denise, were the quality of our water. If you look at the Anacostia River, we've really spent a lot of time and a lot of energy focusing on how do we improve the quality of our river. Uh,
Right.
and we've done a tremendous amount of work there. A lot of people don't realize, Denise, that only 18% of the Anacostia River is actually in the District of Columbia. The overwhelming
Right.
majority of it is in Maryland. And so we have focused extensively on being able to clean up the District of Columbia side of the river, and we've made great progress. We've got to get our friends in Maryland to do more as well, and I'm hopeful that we can do that. But when you come down the Anacostia River from the Maryland side, you can see such pronounced, tremendous additions, improvements in the quality of the water. That's why Earth Day is so important. Also, it allows us to
Yes.
focus so much on the quality of our environment, especially our water quality of our food, and a number of the other 9 areas that we focused on with respect to the environment. So it's a great thing that we've done with Earth Day, and we need to continue to focus on that to get everybody as focused as they can possibly be on how we clean up the environment and how we keep it clean on an ongoing basis. It's not the easiest thing to sell, but when you start to see improvements, people then focus so much more themselves on it. So I'm proud to have been a part of what we're doing in the District of Columbia. Glad that we've been able to focus on the Department of the Energy and the Environment, and getting more and more people who live in our city to recognize the importance of that from one day to the next.
It's great. I like walking the Anacostia River, or at least down at Anacostia Park,
Yeah,
and it's amazing that has really grown as a popular
really.
place for people in the city. And I did a little video, one of those homemade things, and we aired it on Wednesday, just to show how beautiful the river is, but
Mm-hmm.
how astonishingly bleak the banks are with so much trash that's been washed up. But moving on from there, we're also in the midst of this pandemic. And not only when we talk about the environment, actually, this is an environmental issue as well as it is a health issue and an economic issue. And you wrote this column, what we published this week in the Informer, really to raise alarm, just like it has been raised about the impact of COVID-19 on the African American community, and particularly communities east of the river. You used some pretty strong words in that, in that column. One, because you said it has taken this pandemic to realize the inequities in health, for other people to realize something that you've realized for a long time. So I wanted to go there and really talk about, one, what you see, and two, what you hope for as we address this pandemic and come out of it.
Well, it is astounding to me, Denise, that we are in a situation where there are people who have the nerve to say that they didn't know there were these kinds of health disparities that exist in our African American community. One only need to look at the statistics, look at the level of cancer, level of heart disease, the level of other conditions, health conditions that exist in our community, especially in wards 7 and 8. A lot of people don't realize that we have a quarter of the population of the District of Columbia collectively that lives in Ward 7 and Ward 8. That's 160,000 people that have some of the worst health disparities imaginable. And then to hear people saying, gee, I didn't realize that those conditions were that severe, that pronounced in these communities. Well, where you been? Come on. I mean, these are issues that are long lasting. So I'm looking at it as positively as I can, and that is maybe this is the wake-up call that everybody needs to recognize what we have to do to have a fully healthy population of people living in wards 7 and 8. It's one of the things. It's one of the reasons why I came back to the council, Denise, because I really wanted to be able to be in a position to now finally do something lasting about this. When I was the mayor, we had $336 million in the budget to be able to build a new hospital to replace the United Medical Center,
Right.
which is it's an old building. It used to be was when it was built, it was K. Fritz Memorial Hospital. Then it became Southeast